Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to be talking about the 5th episode from Game of Thrones called A Nest of Vipers. Just to, hit some stuff on the front end, we've got several appearances of characters from the television show. We've got Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister, Natalie Dormer as Margaery Tyrell, Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister, Emilia Clarke as Daenerys Targaryen, and Awan Rhian as Ramsay Snow. So this episode, even more than some of the other ones, was pretty heavily featured characters from the show. So that was pretty cool. As in other episodes, you play as 4 characters. Play as Garrett Tuttle, Mira Forrester, Rodrik Forrester, and Asher Forrester. So we'll start off with Garrett, north of the Wall. Garrett is north of the Wall. Of course, he's with his band of Cotter and Finn, and they've met Cotter's sister, Sylvie, who is a wildling like Cotter, and Sylvie does not want to go to the North Grove with them. Cotter, at this point, wants to stay with his sister Sylvie. Now that they're reconnected, he wants to do what she wants to do. Finn is uncertain about this plan for the North Grove now after the interaction with the wildlings in the last episode. He's regretting maybe coming a little bit and is wondering if maybe he could head back to Castle Black. So that puts us in a bad spot. Only Garrett could go to the North Grove, and of course he has no idea how to get there. So there's tension afoot. After this, Garrett has the opportunity to talk to the different characters to kind of affirm them. So you can talk to Cotter and learn the backstory about him and his sister. His sister is like super pale, and so she was actually kicked out of her wildling tribe for being different. It scared them essentially, and so Cotter's super loyal to her, and he gave up his tribe essentially when she got kicked out, and he went with her, it seems. I don't know, interesting dynamic, but their mom gave Sylvie up. She was like, whatever, I want to be part of the tribe. If this child's bad and the tribe thinks so, then I'm out. So you see that the Cotter and his sister, Sylvie, are not your typical wildling. They're a little different. They're outcast within their own people, but they don't like crows, like people like Garrett or people from Westeros or whatever. So it's kind of an interesting spot. Finn feels betrayed finding out that Cotter's a wildling, basically. I chose to care about you, but then you're a bad guy. That's how he sort of feels. So you can talk to Finn and kind of reaffirm him and be like, no, they're our friends. Go by the fire and hang out, basically. After this, Garrett and Sylvie are going hunting for rabbits, and you get the chance to kind of show that you're not just some guy, essentially. So if you kill rabbits, I think you get a chance to kill 2. I ended up killing 1. I missed 1. I was too slow on my draw. But she was reasonably impressed because I did get the first one, so she was like, all right. I imagine if you get 2, she thinks you're pretty cool. But I was like, all right, you're cool. You're better than sucking. Yep, after this, you hear Cotter screaming, and White Walkers are attacking. And in fact, they're White Walkers of the wildlings that you'd killed in the last episode. So it's pretty crazy, especially that the wildlings regenerated as White Walkers that quickly. That's frightening. The White Walkers end up killing Finn in your fight. He gets a spear through his chest, which was a bummer. You end up being able to kill a couple White Walkers because Sylvie tells you that fire is the only way to kill them. So you tried to stab them and they just pulled the sword through themselves, or things like that. So you need to set them on fire, and you end up setting a couple on fire. Unfortunately, though, a bunch of White Walkers show up, and so Cotter, Garrett, and Sylvie run away together, going towards North Grove. They don't really have a choice now. They can't try to meet up with Mance Rayder like she wanted. They just gotta go. Alright, so that wraps up north of the Wall. Now we'll go to King's Landing with Mira. It starts off with Sarah telling Mira that they can't be friends anymore because their friendship is too dangerous. With Mira causing a scene last episode to wrap up that episode and getting kicked out of Tommen's banquet. There's a lot of heat on Mira. She's not really the best person to be friends with at this point. So Sarah says it's too dangerous to continue their friendship. Right after this, 2 guards end up taking Mira to Tyrion Lannister's chambers, where Cersei is there, and she wants her to get information on Tyrion. I need you for that. If you do that, I can take care of the sellswords Lord Whitehill is trying to hire. So we say, okay, cool. So we agree to Cersei's offer and say, sure, we'll try to get information from Tyrion. While after this, Mira is taken to Tyrion's cell by a guard with a bottle of wine. So the idea kind of being Tyrion will get drunk and then he'll share some secrets or whatever. And so what Mira's objective is she needs to find out who Tyrion intends to call as witness for the trial. And so you can go and talk to him and you kind of small talk, and then he's ultimately like, why are you here? What's the deal? You can choose to either be honest with him or not tell him why you came. And I chose to tell Tyrion the truth. I said, Cersei wants to know who you're going to call to witness. 37% of people did this. 63% of the people did not tell the truth. They made up a reason as to why Mira came. And the reason I told the truth to Tyrion was that he's, I feel like, a straight-ish shooter and responds to that. Even if it's info he doesn't want or like or, that kind of thing. I felt like that's the way to play ball with Tyrion, essentially. And I think if you seem suspicious, I think Tyrion sees through that anyway. So that's kind of why I did that. And for me personally, obviously, if it's any Lannisters I actually want to help, I like Tyrion the most. I obviously can't play those cards, and he's not a really helpful ally while he's in jail, but, he's definitely my favorite of the Lannisters, for sure. So I end up telling the truth, and he's like, thanks for your honesty. And Cersei knows as well as I do that I don't have anyone I can call for witness because she made sure of that. So we get the information anyway. During this exchange, a guard comes in and yells at us basically for messing up our mission. Whereas I kind of see that we actually succeeded our mission by being honest. I don't know what happens if you lie or not, but because I can't imagine you can fool Tyrion. That doesn't really fit with him. So there we go. That wraps up King's Landing. Now we head to Ironrath with Rodrik. And this continues where the previous episode ended, with Ramsay Snow bothering Talia in the room. The Glenmores are missing. Everything was kind of empty before. You come in and you're like, what? Ramsay Snow is bothering Talia. Ramsay then makes Rodrik and Talia go on a walk with him. Okay, we're going to go to the woods. And he's talking about just that you've been a nuisance, whereas Griff Whitehill, I'm good at solving problems, sort of deal. And they arrive, and Arthur Glenmore is being flayed by Ramsay's men, and Ramsay tortures him for a while, and then ultimately kills him and disembowels Arthur. This was rough to see. It was gross even for a video game. The flayed man, when you see it in the show, is horrible. And even as a game, it was still pretty horrible. God. Fucking Ramsay. At this point, Ramsay kind of taunts you and brings a knife to you and puts it to his neck. And is like, you want to stab me, don't you? How about you stab me? How about you do it, Rodrik? So you have option to try to stab him, which 37% of people did. And did not try to stab him, which 63% of people did. And I chose not to try to stab him. Talia was there. Talia was like, this is a trick, don't do it. I kind of figured the same as well, the way Ramsay Snow is. You're not going to one-up him in a thing that he sets up, at least, like that. So I didn't go for it. I hope I get to kill him later. Obviously, that would be my desire, but because he's a monster. But that was kind of my thought process. So I didn't try. Chunk on Twitter said, any opportunity to kill that asshat. So Chunk went for it. Makes sense. Chris on Twitter said, I most certainly tried to after what he did to Ethan. Yeah, that's true. First episode, he kills our brother. If anyone deserves to die, it is most certainly Ramsay Snow. So, yeah. I just decided to bide my time. After this, Ramsay tells us that he's tired of the Whitehills and the Foresters, that they should just go to war with each other, and then whoever's left over, Ramsay's fine allying with them. I'm bored by this almost. After this, Elena Glenmore arrives, and she is distraught. She, of course, her brother is brutally flayed, murdered, killed. Elena Glenmore is really distraught by this. You can try to kind of get her not to see it, but it doesn't really work, and she sees it, which was unfortunate. I would have preferred if I could have had her avoid seeing it, just because no one needs to see a flayed person. Or at least, have him covered up or something. I don't know. So she arrives and she's distraught. You get the opportunity to try to kind of comfort her and stuff like that, or let her be alone. I move towards her. The way I've played with Rodrik towards Elena has always been like really loving, and it makes sense that they were to be married, engaged, or whatever in one of the previous episodes. The way that I've played it, I've been pretty good to her. And active, like involved, kind of like, if you need me, I'm choosing to be here, or whatever, that kind of thing. So you have that. The next morning, you wake up and Elena's with you, and Talia comes in though, and she tells you that she's discovered a traitor. She was in the woods and she found someone leave a note that had troop numbers, where they are, where Elena is, all that stuff. So there's a traitor afoot, and she said that the traitor is in the Great Hall currently, and you should go there to kill them. So you go, you walk in, and you end up seeing Sir Royland there. And Sir Royland tells you that he's betrayed you to save the house. So House Forrester is bigger than Rodrik. Asher would have been a better leader. You make wrong calls, that sort of deal. Basically, if you disagreed with Sir Royland, he uses those as the reasons why he betrayed you. And you have your next option. You can choose to kill the traitor or have him imprisoned. 58% of people executed the traitor, whereas 42% of them had the traitor imprisoned. I chose to have him imprisoned because you were kind of in this spot where you could maybe get more information from Sir Royland rather than just killing him. And so that's kind of why I ended up going that route. Alan on Twitter, though, wrote in and he said, death to the opposition. So he killed his traitor. And then Chris on Twitter wrote in, killed him in the first playthrough, but spared him on the second. The reason that I chose to spare him was because he gave us information on an ambush that they're intending to lead for Asher when he arrives on the coast. So if he can kill Asher's men before that. And so I thought that was a worthwhile information to get, essentially. I wanted to kill Sir Royland for sure. But I thought, we can deal with him later. I won't kill him now for this, but maybe he'll get killed later. Or he'll be a prisoner of ours forever. So that was kind of my thought. Next, we go to Marine, and Asher, Beska, and Uncle Malcolm are going to see Dany Targaryen. And she ultimately says that we don't get the sellswords. You killed one of the masters. Those weren't yours to kill, essentially. You didn't do what I wanted, so I'm not giving you sellswords. She also says that she wants Malcolm to stay on as an advisor, that he would be helpful to her. So we'll leave that, and Beska and Asher are going to go and recruit some former pit fighters then. If we can't get the sellswords, then we'll find other people who are good at killing, and hopefully that will work. And they get there, and it's a crazy mess, probably as you would expect with the pit fighters. They, at this point, one of the former masters has a house where he actually has his own pit fighting chambers, so they've decided to hold up there. Seemingly are making masters fight pit fighters, or maybe making former masters fight each other. It was a little unclear, but there's a lot of dead people, and Beska tells you, these guys can't be won over with money. You need to show them basically that you're like a good warrior so that they would want to follow you. Like, they're not going to be impressed by honor or kingdoms or wealth or, whatever. Like, they like killing because they're pit fighters, and they've done this so long, it's, their thing. And Beska is a good person for this. To know this, obviously she was a pit fighter herself. She knows some of these people. We find out their leader is a woman named Amaya, who was a former close friend of Beska's, but since Beska bought her freedom and left, Amaya doesn't like her anymore. Essentially, Amaya tells you that you need to fight this pit fighter named Bloodsong to prove that you're worth following. And if you can do that, then we'll hear you out. But if you can't even beat one of our own, why would we follow such a terrible fighter, essentially? Why would we team up with you? So you end up jumping into the pit fight, and you fight this guy named Bloodsong. In the fight, you end up getting to use 3 different weapons, which was kind of cool. They're like pit fighters on the side, and so they'll throw you down a weapon. And so you end up in kind of an extended fight with Bloodsong. Ultimately, you end up getting him knocked down, and you have the upper hand. You have your weapon. He's hurt and has no weapon on him. And your next decision arrives. What will you do with Bloodsong? You can kill him, which 38% of people did, or you can spare him, which 62% of people did. I chose to kill him. I think ultimately it was like, these are your rules, I'm going to play by them. Like, I want you to fight for me. And Asher ends up saying when he kills him, and I will kill you for your stupid game. Like, I don't, pointing out, I don't want to do this, but I will play by your stupid rules, essentially. So I did that. Chris on Twitter wrote in and said, I brought everyone his head in my first playthrough. I spared him and recruited him on my second. So, yeah, sparing him and trying to get him to fight with you too. Second go around. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I kind of felt like I just got to do what they would want. I want them to fight. You have a ship the next day that you'll use to head home. Uncle Malcolm shows up and he chooses to stay behind to be one of Dany Targaryen's advisors. Makes sense. I was into that. I would have suggested he do that if I had a choice in there. Because as he'd mentioned in there, being allied with Dany Targaryen, that'd be huge for me. I would most certainly want to be one of her allies as well. So after this, Asher, Beska, and the pit fighters head off to sea. We then pick up off the coast, and Asher arrives to find that the port's empty, and nothing's really going on. They come out with the weapons ready. Nothing's there. Rodrik ends up being there with some of his soldiers, and there's a good welcome. We're back. This is great. All good stuff. And so people start crossing out of the gate, I guess, from the port to the countryside, essentially. And so a bunch of the pit fighters and soldiers have crossed over. But then a White Hill soldier comes, and he brings the gate down, separating the forces they've collected. I would say almost all of the forces were outside of the gate, excluding Beast, who's this huge pit fighter who we end up punching earlier. Beast, and then Asher and Rodrik, and maybe a couple other randos. And they're getting cornered, pulled in by the White Hills. They're stuck. Beast tries to raise the gate, but is killed while he does it. Then Asher and Rodrik go over, and they're trying to open it up to be able to let their soldiers in / so they can escape. And they recognize that they can't both go through the gate. That one of them needs to get the gate open, and the other one will be able to escape. So you get your final decision. Who will stay behind? Will Rodrik stay behind so Asher can escape? Or will Asher stay behind so Rodrik can escape? And for me, I chose to have Rodrik stay behind. 60% of people did this. 40% of people had Asher stay behind. And I did this, I think a main part being is that Asher, has control of these pit fighters, and these pit fighters definitely are needed to win. We need them for House Forrester to survive. So that being a big thing, I think, of course, Asher being a better fighter than Rodrik. And I even think that Asher might be a better leader than Rodrik at points, that he could get these the pit fighters together to lead them, that he, or as I played, I guess, with him, he adjusted how he would be. Asher's not like a pit fighter, cruel, kill everyone kind of guy, but that's what he needed to be, so he did it. Or these times before this, he's been a soldier without a cause, I guess, or whatever, for a long time. But now that he has one, he's home, his home needs him. I don't know, it seemed right. And then Rodrik, on the other hand, I think he's been a guy who's really tried to lead his house, and I think can and does well. People who chose the opposite, I imagine they see that just as much. But yeah, I thought it was kind of a fitting go. I liked this choice a lot, and that was a good job by Telltale. Chris wrote in on Twitter, and he said that he had Rodrik stay behind it as well. So I'm guessing he's got some similar reasons to me. So that wraps up the episode. I've got a couple general thoughts, though, about the game. First one being is it's really good to be back in Game of Thrones. Just having taken a few months off of this game, playing other stuff in between. It's really nice to be back. Right from the start, the game begins actually with Ramsay Snow with Talia, because the way the game is, of course, is it bounces around rather than being each story in compartments. It's just way easier to talk about it in compartments here. But it starts off with that, and I was already like, oh, fuck that guy. I hate him. And I don't know, it just brought me back into Game of Thrones right away. So that was really cool. And of course, with the show starting up in a month and a half, maybe, something like that, really excited for the show to be back. So I don't know, this was cool. Cool lead in to returning to that world. So I like that. Also, I really like House Forrester, and also they're saying Iron from Ice. That was something I forgot to mention, but when Rodrik and Asher separate, and Rodrik stays behind to open the gate for his brother, he says, Iron from Ice, and his brother responds with it, and it's like a ultimate, yeah, fuck yeah, House Forrester, we rock. That kind of feeling. It felt that way, which was cool. So I really like this. House Forrester is pretty interesting. It's good stuff, and I would definitely be into more about House Forrester. Whether, I don't know if the books have much of House Forrester in them or not. I don't remember. Or if they've been in the books, they haven't as much where I am in the books. I don't know. I don't think they show up on the show, but I might be wrong. More of them would be cool. I don't know how episode 6 of this game goes, and Telltale's dead also, but if there was going to be another Game of Thrones game and House Forrester was involved in it, I would be into that. I think they're pretty cool. So I like that. And then the last thing I was thinking is I'm kind of surprised that House Stark would be aligned with the Boltons in the first place. When it all starts off, the Boltons are bannermen for the Starks, and the fact that the Boltons they're the flayed man is their sigil. That's a thing they all do. It's not like Ramsay is the worst person who flays people, but instead the Boltons in general do it, and Ramsay's somehow worse than that. I don't know. It's kind of surprising, just because House Stark is pretty honorable, like Ned, everything he is, and that the Boltons would even be allies at all is weird. The only thing I can think of is maybe it's one of those keep your friends close, enemies closer kind of thing, or Bruce Bolton is better as an ally than an adversary, so yes, he's one of us. Even though I personally don't approve of flaying people and stuff like that. So that's kind of my guess, but I thought that specifically in playing this game. I've obviously seen the Boltons flay people before on the show and things like that, but watching it here, it kind of made me be like, wait, what? Why would the Starks be with them? So those were a couple of thoughts that this episode brought up in me. But yeah, that is our episode. So if you've got any comments, questions, thoughts on Game of Thrones, please write in at TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at StoryEverPod. Please rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. That would really mean a lot to us. And yeah, we will see you next time.